So, let's look at the accents in Latin. You see, classical Latin has a stress accent, which means a dynamic accent, whose position is predictable from syllable, quantity, and word shape. It is not a musical or pitch accent like early Greek. The stress marks one syllable as stronger or longer in real speech. Yet, among scholars, there is still the debate how exactly it was realized, intensity versus pitch components. Now, let's look at the fundamental rule. First, two-syllable words. Here, the accent is on the first syllable, which means the penult. For example, pater. Then we have three or more syllables. Here's also the penult law. You see, if the penult, which is next to last syllable, is heavy, again that means long by nature or by position, the accent falls on the penult. If the penult is light, which means a short vowel, the accent falls on the antepenult, that is the third from last. So, penult heavy, it means it falls on the penult. If the penult is light, it falls on the antepenult. And this is the classical accent rule that is used in all standard grammars. Now, let's look a little bit more closely what heavy, aka long, and light, aka short syllable means. Mono and quantity basics. Beginning with long by nature. A vowel historically or phonemically long. A, E, I, O, U. Note the line above the letters. Or a diphthong, which means two vowels. I, ow, oi. And then long by position. A vowel followed by two or more consonants in the same syllable, so it counts as long for metrical or quantity purpose. For example, amicus. Mi is long by nature. Pactum. Pa is short. CT, which is kt, makes preceding vowel long by position. Note special counts. Letters like x or ts, sorry for the hissing, behave as two consonantal sounds, so they make the preceding vowel long by position. Now, let's look at just a few examples, beginning with tres, which has just one syllable. Thus, the accent goes on the only syllable available. Next, we have pater. Here we have two syllables. And the accent goes on the penult syllable, which in this case is the first syllable. But remember, when we are counting the syllables, we start from the end of the word, not the beginning. Next we have amicus. Here we have three syllables. The penult mi is long by nature, as you can see with the line above the E. And thus, the accent goes on the penult, so we have amicus. And lastly, imperator. Here we have four syllables. The penult tor is obviously long. So, the accent goes on the penult, imperator. Now, let's look at some important special cases and complications. Beginning again with the enclitics, for example, ke, ve, ne, etc. And those are, if you remember, the words that are being directly attached to the preceding words. You see, enclitics are phonologically dependent, and classical grammarians as well as modern scholars note that when an enclitic attaches, the resulting phonological words, which means the word plus the newly attached enclitic, often behaves as a single word, at least for the accent. So, many traditional prescriptions place the accents on the syllable immediately before the enclitic, so that ke, ve, ne, etc. may draw the stress leftward. And this yields pronunciations like animaque, which is long, to animaque. Note, instead of an, which would be normally when we would not have an enclitic, it becomes animaque with the ma as the stress syllable. And then, of course, we have compounds and prefixation. In many compounds, the main lexical stress is preserved on the stem rather than the prefix, but predictable adjustments occur depending on the resulting penult weight. For example, circumdare obeys the penult rule after compounding. Then we have words that are shortened by either apocope, which means the loss of the final syllable, or contraction. You see, words that have lost a final syllable, apocope, may surface with final stress in syncopated forms. For example, ilik from ilike or reduk from reduke, where historical change alters surface accents. Of course, we have also poetic and metrical interaction. You see, meter sometimes forces a different accentual reading to make a line scan correctly. So, classical orators and poets exploited such flexibility. And lastly, we have morphological alternations. You see, simply put, some paradigm forms change vowel quantity or add endings that affect syllable weight, and thus changing the position of the accent. For example, certain verb forms or case forms when endings lengthen. And that's it already. As with the Attic dialects, I will have a final overview of the Latin accent rules on my Patreon for free, so have a look at it.